David Guetta. A name that sends every festival crowd on earth into ecstasy today. But before we get to the man everyone knows now, let's go back to where it all began. This kid right here. That's David. Raised in Paris, the son of a psychoanalyst and a sociologist, nobody in his family had any idea that this boy would one day become one of the most influential musicians of our time. At just 16 years old, he stood behind turntables for the very first time, in shabby Parisian nightclubs worlds away from fame and fortune. From this kid to a global superstar lies a journey of more than 20 years. And that's exactly the journey we're about to tell. This is the world that this man helped create. A man who never learned an instrument professionally, who never won a talent show, who spent 20 years DJing in clubs before anyone outside of Paris even knew his name. And today? Today, his name is synonymous with an entire genre, with an entire culture, with electronic dance music, as we know it. This is the story of Pierre David Guetta. From the boy who illegally spun records in Parisian clubs at 16 to the man who changed pop music forever. Paris, November 7th, 1967. In this city, Pierre David Guetta is born, son of a Belgian psychoanalyst and a Sephardic sociologist who had once fled Morocco for France. A family shaped by intellect, not by music. No one in this family could have predicted that this boy would one day fill the biggest stadiums in the world. David himself initially seemed set on a completely different path. He began studying law. But something else pulled at him far more strongly. At just 16 years old, David Guetta stood behind turntables for the first time in the nightclubs around the Parisian district of Les Halles. No glamour, no big stage. Just a teenager, a few vinyl records, and the desire to see people dance. He played whatever was popular, pop, funk, later hip-hop too. But then, in 1987, something happened that turned his entire musical understanding upside down. On French radio, he heard a track by Farley Jackmaster Funk, an early house track out of Chicago. Guetta was so captivated that he recorded the song off the radio, worked it into his next DJ set, and promptly cleared the entire dance floor. Nobody knew this sound. Not yet. But Guetta wasn't deterred. A year later, Acid House finally reached France, and Guetta began organizing his own club nights. He was no longer just a DJ. He became the curator of a subculture that was still in its infancy in France. It was the start of an apprenticeship that would last far longer than anyone could have imagined. The 90s. While others of his generation were already scoring their first chart hits, Guetta remained exactly where he'd come from, behind the decks. He worked at the legendary Broad Club in Paris and later even became manager of the famous nightclub Le Palace. In 1992, his luck was about to turn, if only a little. During one of his sets, he met Robert Owens, a living legend of the Chicago house scene. Guetta played him some of his own productions. Owens was impressed and sang over one of Guetta's tracks. The result? Up and Away. A minor club hit that never stormed the charts, but circulated in garage DJs' record crates for 4 years. A respectable achievement, nothing more. What many don't know, by this point, Guetta had already spent over 20 years in the music business without ever landing the big breakthrough. No record deal that made him rich, no radio rotation that made his name known. Just nights, clubs, and the conviction that good music would eventually find its way. In 1990, he married Kathy Lobé, a woman who would become far more than just his wife. Kathy managed nightclubs herself and, in the years that followed, became a central figure in David's professional rise. Together, they build something bigger than a relationship, an empire of electronic music. In 2001, Guetta co-founded the label Gum Productions, together with DJ Joachim Garraud. And in that very year, what he had waited 2 decades for finally happened. Just a Little More Love, a track featuring American singer Chris Willis, who would become Guetta's creative companion for many years. The song became Guetta's first top 20 hit in the UK, and in 2002, also marked his debut album on Virgin Records. Over 250,000 copies sold. For a previously unknown French club DJ, a massive success. But Guetta knew this was only the beginning. In 2003, he launched his legendary party series, Fuck Me, I'm Famous, on Ibiza. An institution he would keep running every summer for over a decade. It was the moment Guetta began to create not just music, but an entire brand, a whole lifestyle. 2004 brought Guetta Blaster, followed by Pop Life in 2007, featuring the hit Love Is Gone, which brought Guetta into the US Billboard charts for the first time. He toured across Europe, filling increasingly larger venues. In 2008, together with his wife Kathy, he organized the event United at the Stade de France, in front of 40,000 people, alongside DJ heavyweights like Tiesto and Carl Cox. Guetta was no longer an insider tip, but he was still far from a global superstar. That was about to change in 2009, with a call that would change his life forever. The Black Eyed Peas are working on their new album, The END, and they bring in support from a French producer who, until then, had been known almost exclusively in Europe, David Guetta. The result of this collaboration is called I Got a Feeling, a song that explodes. It becomes the most downloaded song in history up to that point, with over 7 million digital sales in the US alone. 2 Grammy nominations follow. David Guetta was 42 years old. 20 years after entering the Parisian nightlife scene, and he had only just begun to make history. That very same year, his 4th studio album is released, One Love. The single, When Love Takes Over, featuring Kelly Rowland, hits #1 in the UK. Sexy Bitch, featuring Akon, becomes a worldwide multi-million seller, and Guetta's first #1 hit in Germany. In 2010, his first Grammy follows. Best Remixed Recording for When Love Takes Over. A year later, the second, for his remix of Madonna's Revolver, alongside Dutch DJ Afrojack. In 2011, Guetta releases Nothing But the Beat, a double album with a guest list like no other. Nicki Minaj, Snoop Dogg, Chris Brown, Usher, Sia, Flo Rida, Jennifer Hudson, and a collaboration with a young Swedish producer named Avicii. That same year, the public votes him the world's #1 DJ for the first time in DJ Mag's poll. The boy from the Parisian underground clubs now stands at the top of a global movement. In the years that follow, David Guetta becomes the face of an entire movement. Electronic dance music, or EDM, conquers the world, and Guetta is right at the center of it. Songs like Titanium with Sia, Play Hard with Neo and Akon, or This One's For You, the official anthem of the 2016 European Football Championship, become global hits. In 2016, Guetta stands at the opening ceremony of the Euros in the middle of the Stade de France, performing in front of a television audience of millions. He opens concerts for Rihanna. He becomes a 6-time MTV EMA winner in the Best Electronic category. In 2023, he wins the Brit Award for Producer of the Year. But what truly sets Guetta apart isn't just his instinct for hits, it's his ability to keep reinventing himself. From house to electropop to future rave, a genre he helped shape together with DJ Morton, always searching for the next sound to move dance floors around the world. Over 10 million albums sold, over 65 million singles sold, and a name that has become synonymous with an entire genre. Looking at David Guetta's story, one thing stands out above all. There is no shortcut. For 20 years, he DJ'd in clubs before the world even noticed him. 20 years in which he could have given up. But it was exactly that patience, that persistence, that made all the difference in the end. When his moment came, he was ready for it. With decades of experience, an unerring instinct for the dance floor, and a willingness to keep reinventing himself. Today, David Guetta is far more than a DJ. He is one of the architects of an entire music genre, a man who fused the club music of the 80s with the pop sound of the 21st century, bringing millions of people around the world onto the dance floor. From a raw beginner in the shadows of the Parisian club scene to the undisputed global superstar of electronic music, this is the story of David Guetta. And as he himself would probably say, it's far from over.